$4,207.83 minus 69.47. You do the math before your eyes even adjust to the screen. It's 5:52 in the morning. Cold storage. Your breath shows up in the air like it's trying to leave before you do. You don't gasp, you don't cry. You just stand there 40 seconds, maybe less. Then you clock in. Because the shift starts at 6 and the shift doesn't care what your bank app says. 6 months from this exact moment. Same phone, same hands, you'll open that app and feel something closer to steady. Not because the number got huge, because it stopped being able to knock you sideways at 5:52 in the morning. But that's not this morning. This morning, you're just a person in a cooler, holding a phone, doing math you didn't ask to do. You clock in at 6, same as always. Naomi's already on the line, sorting boxes of surgical gloves into bins. She waves, you wave back. Nobody here talks about money. Everyone here thinks about it constantly. Your shift ends at 2. You go home, and you don't open the banking app again. Not because you forgot, because you already know what's in there, and knowing it once today was enough. That night, you sit on the edge of your bed. Same spot you always sit. There's a receipt in your back pocket. $40, boot resole, 3 weeks old, still unpaid. You've been carrying it around like it doesn't count if it's still in your pocket. It counts. You pull out your laptop, open a blank spreadsheet. Stare at the cursor blinking for a second too long. You've tried budgets before. They never last past the first surprise bill. So this time, you don't build a budget, you build an inventory. What actually comes in, what actually goes out, no guessing. Take-home pay, $1,940 a month. You list every cost one line at a time, and you don't round any of them down to make yourself feel better. Rent, $710. Car payment, $285. Insurance, $95. Phone, $55. Utilities, $80. Groceries, you actually check 3 months of statements for this one, $260. Gas, $100. A small loan you're still paying off from a rough year 2 years back, $95. A few subscriptions you forgot you still had, $25. That brought total monthly spending to $1,705 before the debt minimums, then the minimums. Credit card, $150. Store card, $25. You do the subtraction, and you sit with what's left. $60. That's it. That's the whole surplus in an average month after everything that has to happen happens. You stare at that number longer than the big one. The big one, the $6,918.47, sitting on the credit card at 21.9%. That one's almost too large to feel anything about. It's abstract. A wall. $60 is not abstract. $60 is real, and it's small, and it's the only lever you actually have. You don't stop there, though. The spreadsheet answers one question and opens another. Which debt do you actually go after first? You spend 20 minutes reading about it that same night, phone propped against your pillow. There are 2 ways people usually talk about this. One says attack whichever balance has the highest interest rate first, because mathematically, that saves you the most money over time. The other says attack whichever balance is smallest first, because clearing something completely, watching a number hit 0, gives you a win you can actually feel. And that feeling is what keeps you going when nothing else does. The math says the credit card at 21.9% should come before the store card, sitting at a lower rate. On paper, that's correct. But you already know something about yourself. You've started things before. Diets, workout plans, a savings goal 2 years ago that lasted exactly 6 weeks. What always killed it wasn't the math. It was going months without any proof that it was working. You pick the store card first, $850 instead of $6,900. Not because it's the smarter number, because it's a number you can actually finish, and finishing something once is worth more to you right now than being technically optimal. You write the boot receipt into the spreadsheet too. $40. Category, unpaid, forgotten, real. You don't pay it tonight. You don't have it tonight. But it's on the page now, which means tomorrow it's a target instead of a ghost. You also find something you didn't go looking for. A line on your bank statement, $12 monthly, labeled maintenance fee. It's been there for 4 years. Nobody hid it from you. It was sitting in terms you agreed to and never read. the way almost nobody reads them. That's the first real thing you learn this month. The problem was never that the system was working against you in secret. The problem was that you'd never once looked closely enough to see how it actually worked. You closed the laptop a little after midnight. Nothing about your numbers changed tonight. $60 of surplus, $6,918 of debt, both exactly where they were this morning. But something else changed. It's small enough that you don't notice it until later. You don't fix a number by feeling bad about it. You fix it by writing it down. Saturday. Laundromat on the corner of your block, the one with the flickering sign that only shows laundry after dark. You've got a basket of work clothes tumbling behind glass and a phone in your hand. Not scrolling, typing. Full asset and liability list, something you've never actually done, not once, not even when you were doing okay. Left side, what you own. Checking account, $1,150. Old 401k from the job before this one still sitting there untouched, $420. Your car, 8 years old, worth maybe $4,500 if someone wanted it badly. Total, $6,070. Right side, what you owe. Credit card, $6,918. The store card, $850. The consolidation loan, $1,900. Total, $9,668. You do the subtraction slowly, like you're hoping it'll come out different the second time. Negative $3,598. That's you. On paper now. This is the real number, not the $60 of monthly breathing room, not the credit card balance sitting alone. Everything you have, minus everything you owe. It doesn't knock the wind out of you the way it might have a year ago. But it sits there. Heavy enough. The dryer across from you stops. Naomi walks in, basket on her hip, a bag on her shoulder you haven't seen before. Leather, new, the kind of bag people take pictures of. Got it for making it through the Henderson audit, she says, laughing a little, like she's still deciding if she's allowed to be proud of it. You tell her it's nice. You mean it. And on the walk back to your machine, you notice something that surprises you a little. You don't want one. Not because you don't like it. Because right now, with this piece of paper in your hand, wanting one doesn't fit anywhere. You almost don't open a new savings account that night. Your old one, the one from high school, is right there, already familiar. Moving money into a different bank feels like more effort than $60 deserves. But you do the math anyway, out of habit now. Your old account pays basically nothing. The high-yield one is paying around 4% at the time. More than the interest, though, it's the separation that matters. Money sitting in the same account as your daily spending has a way of quietly disappearing into daily spending. Money in a separate account, one you don't have a debit card for, has to survive an extra step before you can touch it. That extra step is the whole point. You're not trying to earn your way out of debt with interest. You're trying to build a wall between money that exists and money you're allowed to spend on Tuesday. And a slightly better interest rate is just a nice thing that happens to sit on top of that wall. You open the account, you move $60 into it. That's the whole month's surplus. All of it. The app makes a small sound, a confirmation, and nothing more. No message telling you you're doing great, but that $60 is different than any other $60 you've moved this year. It's not for the boot receipt. It's not for the credit card. It's the first brick in something people love to talk about, and almost nobody actually builds, a starter emergency fund. Not 6 months of expenses. You're nowhere close to that. Just enough to keep one bad week from turning into 6. The text from Corinne comes a few days later. Mid-shift, phone buzzing in your back pocket while you're stacking pallets. Nashville. 3 nights. Bachelorette trip. Dates locked. You read it on your break, standing by the loading dock with a granola bar you're not really eating. 280. Hotels split 4 ways. 420. Dinners and one big night out, 350. Outfits and a gift, 150. $1,200. You don't have $1,200 sitting anywhere. What you have is $60 of monthly surplus and a stack of things that already need it. So this isn't really a question of spending $1,200 you don't have. It's a question of whether you put a trip you can't currently afford onto a card, already charging you 21.9% on the last thing you couldn't afford. You already know the answer. You just don't love it. I'm so happy for you. I can't make Nashville work right now. But I'll be there for the wedding, no matter what. You read it twice before you send it. Corinne writes back fast, kind, a little surprised. No worries at all, love you. You set the phone face down on the counter. Saying no doesn't feel like discipline in the moment. It feels like standing outside a room everyone else is walking into. You let that sit for a minute instead of fixing it with an excuse. Then you go back to the spreadsheet and look at the store card. $850? Sitting there since a mattress you don't even think about anymore. You pull a pair of boots out of your closet, bought on impulse last year, tags still on, $60 you told yourself you needed. You photograph them and list them online. They sell in 6 hours, $45. You pick up an extra shift that weekend. Between the $60 baseline, the boot money, and the overtime, you send $245 to the store card. $850 becomes $605. It's not fast. It's not Nashville money all at once fast. But it's moving. And it's moving because of decisions you're actually making, not decisions happening to you. Month 3 starts on a Tuesday, and it starts with a noise your car makes in the work parking lot that it's never made before. The mechanic's estimate comes back that afternoon. $340. Belt and a sensor? Nothing dramatic, but not optional either. Old, you would have known exactly where this was going. The credit card. One more thing on top of $6,900, because what's $340 more when the number's already that big? This time, you don't reach for the card. You pull the $60 sitting in the starter emergency fund. You add what would have been this month's store card payment. You come up short by about $60, so you skip groceries for 2 weeks and eat what's already in the freezer. It's not comfortable. It's genuinely tight, tighter than it's been in months. But you pay the mechanic in cash. $340 off a debit card, and the balance on your credit card doesn't move an inch because of it. Nothing about this month goes toward the store card. The debt payoff line on your spreadsheet sits flat for the first time since you started. You feel that. It's frustrating watching a number that was finally moving just stop. But there's another number that matters more this month, and it's not on the spreadsheet. It's the fact that a $340 problem stayed a $340 problem. It didn't become a $340 problem plus interest, plus a slightly heavier $6,900, plus one more thing, quietly compounding against you for the next 5 years. That's the part nobody explains about an emergency fund. It's not there to make emergencies stop happening. It's there to change what an emergency turns into. Month 4 starts with the freezer finally empty and the store card still sitting at $605, exactly where it was 3 weeks ago. You pick up the extra shift again. Between the $60 baseline and the overtime, $200 goes to the store card this month. $605 becomes $405. It's not dramatic. Nothing about this month is dramatic. You're just back to moving in the direction you were moving in before the car interrupted you. That Thursday, driving home in the rain, you're stopped at a red light next to a dealership. Floor-to-ceiling glass, a truck under bright white lights like it's on stage, a banner across the windshield, $469 a month. 0 down. 6 months ago, you'd have spent the rest of the drive doing math on whether you could make that payment fit. Tonight, you glance at it, the light turns green, and you drive past without really thinking about it again. Not because you don't like the truck. Because you've started doing a different kind of math. What a payment actually buys you versus what it costs you every month for 5 years for something worth less the day after you sign. You get home to an email you've deleted unread for 3 years straight. HR, open enrollment. Tonight, you actually open it. Your company matches your 401k contribution dollar for dollar, up to 4% of your pay. That's your employer's specific setup. Not some rule every job has. You'd find out later that Naomi's old company didn't match at all. You're making $41,000 a year. You've been contributing zero. You try to picture what the match actually means in plain terms, because dollar for dollar up to 4% doesn't mean much until you turn it into something you can see. It's like this. Every 2 weeks, if you put in about $63, your company quietly puts in another $63, and none of it touches your paycheck on the way there. It's not a bonus you have to ask for. It's not a raise you have to negotiate. It's already written into your job. The only thing standing between you and it was a form you never filled out. You think about the years you didn't do this. 3 years, roughly $4,800 of match you never collected, sitting somewhere in a version of your life that already happened and isn't coming back. You don't spiral about it. There's no version of tonight where being upset about 3 years ago gets you those years back. You just fill out the form now for the version of you that's still ahead. Here's the part that matters, though. The part you actually stop and think through before you touch anything. You still owe $6,800 at 21.9%. A 21.9% balance is hard to justify carrying while you're trying to invest somewhere else at the same time. But the 401k match isn't really an investment decision. It's not money competing with your debt for the same dollar. It comes out of your paycheck before you ever see it, and your employer doubles a piece of it. Turning it down isn't choosing debt payoff over investing. It's just leaving money on a table that was never going to touch your debt either way. You log into the portal, set your contribution to 4%. 4 minutes, done. You leave everything else alone. No Roth yet, no extra investing. The rest of what little surplus you have is still going exactly one place: the debt. The next morning at work, Tobias pulls you aside near the loading dock. 2 people out, a shipment behind schedule, and instead of handing you a task, he asks what you do. Asks, not tells. It's small. Maybe it's nothing. But you can't remember the last time anyone here asked your opinion about anything. You give him an answer. He nods, adjusts the schedule almost exactly the way you suggested, and walks off like it was obvious you'd have something useful to say. Later that week, cleaning out your junk drawer, you find the boot receipt. $40, paid off weeks ago, completely forgotten. You genuinely didn't remember it existed until you were holding it. Month 5. The overtime money and the $25 that used to be the store card's own minimum, freed up the moment you'd caught up on everything else, finally closed the last $405. The store card hits 0. You cut it in half with kitchen scissors and drop both pieces in the trash. No ceremony. It just feels different, holding 2 pieces of plastic that used to control part of your month. That same week, a letter shows up you didn't ask for. Your credit card limit going from $2,000 to $3,500. You haven't requested anything. You've barely used the card in months. The issuer saw a pattern: on-time payments, a shrinking balance, and the limit changed because of it. It doesn't know your name, or about the boots or the mechanic's bill. It just reads numbers and adjusts. You don't take the extra room. If anything, it makes you a little uneasy, being handed more rope right when you finally learned not to need it. Then the real shift lands. Your performance review, which you actually prepared for this year. 1 page, no feelings, just what you did. Redesigned the weekly inventory report, saved the floor about 4 hours a week. Trained 2 hires ahead of schedule, covered a 3-month gap. When an account manager left, you ask for 8%. Your director comes back with 7. 41,000 becomes 43,870. About $180 extra a month after taxes. The same week, an old coworker, Renata, reaches out. She's freelancing now, needs help with reporting, 6 hours a month at $25 an hour. $150 more a month, done from your kitchen table on a Sunday. Between the raise and the freelance work, your monthly surplus goes from $60 to somewhere around $390. You don't upgrade anything. No new apartment, no nicer car. Every new dollar goes exactly where the old dollars were already going. Straight at the credit card. Then your bank quietly waives the $12 maintenance fee you found buried in the fine print back in month 1. Your direct deposit pattern qualified you automatically. That particular bank's rule, not a universal one. Nobody calls to tell you. The system just stops charging you for something it never should have charged you for once your account looked a certain way. Later that week, Naomi texts, short on rent, asks if you can spot her $60 until Friday. You send it without thinking twice. She sends back a thank you so much, more relief in it than the amount should carry. You sit with your phone for a second after. It isn't guilt. It isn't pride either. It's something closer to recognizing a gap that wasn't there a year ago. Not because you got smarter than Naomi, or more disciplined, or better at anything she isn't. Just because you finally started paying attention to a part of your life you'd spent years avoiding. The gap isn't about who's doing better. It's just that you're doing math now that you didn't know how to do 6 months ago. Once the store card hit zero, its $25 minimum didn't just disappear, it rolled straight into the credit card payment, stacked on top of the raise and the freelance money. That's most of where the $6,440 comes from. Not one big push, just every freed up dollar landing on the same balance instead of scattering. Month 6 starts on a Friday, payday, and you don't open the banking app the second you wake up the way you used to. You make coffee, get dressed. You're halfway through your shift before you even remember it's payday. That's not luck. 3 Sundays ago, you sat on your couch for half an hour and built something you didn't have a name for at the time. 4% of every check routes into your 401k before you see it. Rent, insurance, the loan payment, all drafted on the first. Whatever's left after that gets split 2 ways without you touching it. Some into the high-yield savings account, still rebuilding after the mechanic ate through it back in month 3, and the rest straight at the credit card. You also open a Roth IRA this month. Not a big move. You set the account up, link it to your bank, and schedule a small transfer to start once the credit card's further along. For now, the account just sits there, empty but ready, the way a room is ready before anyone's moved in. You'd assumed accounts like this were for people who already had money. Turns out opening one took 15 minutes on your couch, in the same sweatshirt you've had since high school, and it didn't ask you to already be someone else first. The credit card is sitting around $6,440 now, down from $6,918. Not close to zero, not the story where the debt disappears in 6 months, and you ride off into some quiet, debt-free sunset. But it's moving in one direction now, on purpose, and it survived a $340 car repair without growing. That's the actual headline of these 6 months, not the balance. What the balance didn't do when something went wrong. A few weeks later, lunch in the break room, same table you've eaten at for 2 years. Naomi and a guy from second shift are talking about upgrading their phones, whether the new payment plan is worth it. It's the exact kind of conversation you used to have constantly. You realize, sandwich half unwrapped, that you're not really in it anymore. Not because you're above it. You've just started thinking about whether something's an asset or a leak, instead of whether the monthly payment fits. You don't say any of that out loud. You just nod and let the conversation move past you, and something in that moment feels a little like standing between 2 rooms. Not quite in the one you left, not quite in whatever comes next. Nobody at the table notices. You're not sure you'd know how to explain it even if they asked. It passes by the time your break ends. The shift keeps moving, the way it always does. That Friday night on your way home, you stop for gas. The same station, same pump you always use. While you're standing there, you check your phone, out of old habit more than real need. No red numbers, nothing flashing. Direct deposit, on schedule. Credit card payment, processed automatically, 3 days ago. Savings, rebuilding, $70 past where the mechanic left it. You put the phone away and drive the rest of the way home in the quiet, the radio's not quite filling. You think, driving, about what actually changed versus what just moved. The debt moved, $6,918 down to $6,440. Real, but not the headline. What actually changed is smaller and harder to put in a sentence. It's that a car repair didn't become a new balance on a card. It's that an email you'd have deleted now gets opened. It's that you know specifically what your rent costs and what your groceries cost and what's left over after both, not a feeling about money, an actual number, the same one every month, one you built yourself instead of one that just happened to you. None of that shows up on a screen the way the debt number does. Nobody's going to ask about it. There's no chart for it. But it's the part that doesn't reset the next time something breaks. 6 months ago, at 5:52 in the morning, you stood in a cold storage aisle and stared at a phone that told you exactly how far underwater you were. 40 seconds. Maybe less. You didn't gasp, you didn't cry, you just clocked in because the shift didn't care what your bank app said. Tonight, same phone, same hands, you check the same kind of number and it doesn't do anything to you at all. You're still $6,440 from zero. The math isn't finished, it's nowhere close to finished. But the number stopped being the thing that decided how your morning went. That's not the ending where everything's fixed. It's just the 6 months where you stopped being afraid to look.